What is up, everybody? Coach Juma here, head trainer and nutrition coach at Stupid Fit, and today we're going to be breaking down the worst ways to measure your workouts. All of us want to have good workouts. We don't want to waste our time in the gym, but the way you measure a good workout isn't how most people do them. They look at their calories burned, they look at how much they're sweating, they look at how much time they spend in the gym, but all of these are bad ways to actually measure effectiveness of training. So we're gonna break down why each one of those are bad, and then also give you alternatives that are gonna be much more effective to gauge the workout, so you're not wasting time in the gym and actually know you're getting the most out of your workout for every minute you spend in the gym. All right, so this first one is the most common one by far. People like to measure how many calories they burn in a workout. With all the smart devices we have, the phone apps and machines at the gym that are telling us how many calories we burn, it's easy to get caught up looking at that number for validation for how well our workout is. But this is a terrible gauge for how well you're doing. There's 3 reasons why this method isn't that great. The first is that it's inaccurate. Most of the machines in the gym that are telling you how many calories you're burning are designed for 6 foot tall, 180 pound men. If that's not you, there's gonna be a huge inaccuracy. Even if that is you, there's gonna be a huge inaccuracy. In fact, most calorie burn measuring devices, including watches, chest straps, or any other machine, can be anywhere between 25 to 60% off in what they're counting. So that means the device can tell you you burned 400 calories, but it can really be anywhere between 250 and 600 calories. Not super accurate, not super reliable, not something that you should look to tell you how much you burn. The second reason is because it's an incomplete measure of how many calories you're burning. These devices usually rely on body temperature and heart rate to tell you how many calories you're burning. But you're doing more than just raising your heart rate and raising your body temperature. You're using different muscles. The way you use those muscles, how fast you move them, how much weight you're moving, etc., are all going to be variable for how many calories you're burning. 2 people can have the same heart rate and same body temperature but be burning vastly different amounts of calories. These machines don't know how you're using your muscles, so they'll never know how many calories you're actually burning. 3, it's indeterminate. Kind of related to the last point, it doesn't know what you're doing. Sure, your watch might ask you what kind of workout you're doing, strength training, yoga, etc. But all of those are such broad terms that it never actually knows what you're doing and can never truly tell you how many calories you're burning. So there's no point in relying on calories burned as a metric because it's never going to give you accurate data and it's never going to give you reliably consistent data for you to base your workout off of. The next wrong way to measure your workouts is by sweating. A lot of people think the more you sweat, the more calories you burn, but those aren't related at all. How much you sweat depends on environmental factors, how humid the room is, the temperature of the room, etc., what you're wearing, the sweat glands you have on your body produced at birth, and how hydrated you are. It has nothing to do with how much you're moving, how many calories you're burning, how you're challenging your muscles, or anything like that. There is no correlation between the amount of sweat produced and the amount of calories burned. I could sit here, turn up the heat of my house, and sweat for another 10 minutes. It doesn't mean I burned more calories than at a lower temperature sitting here doing the same exact thing. So stop measuring your workouts by how much you sweat. And the last wrong way to measure your workouts, and possibly the most harmful way to measure your workouts, is by how sore you are. A lot of people like to wear soreness as a badge of honor and think that the more sore they are, the better their workout is, that the less they can move the next day, the better their workout was the previous day. But this does more harm than good in the short term and the long term. In the short term, too much muscle soreness will alter your movement patterns, decrease strength and force generation, increase overall inflammation, reduce your mobility and flexibility, and limit your ability to recover. And this is important because the actual act of fat loss happens when you're recovering, not when you're training. When you're training and throughout training, you are breaking down muscle tissue and actually storing fat. Your body is in a catabolic state, which means you're going to be storing fat while training and breaking down muscle tissue. It's only after you've recovered and put yourself in an anabolic state that your body is rebuilding muscle tissue and willingly burning fat instead. Your results will only go as far as your recovery. You're actually training so that you can earn the right to recover. So you never want to have excessive soreness. Not to mention the long-term effects that this has. If you work out on Monday and get yourself to a point where you're so sore you can't move properly, that's going to negatively impact the rest of your workouts for the week. Now you can't train as effectively. Now you can't burn as many calories. Now you can't challenge your muscles or do as much as you could have if you weren't as sore. Training at a 10 out of 10 intensity 1 day a week and a 4 out of 10 intensity the rest of the week is less effective than training at a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 intensity the entire week. You need to give yourself space to recover from your training, not beat yourself up so that you can't move the next day. If you find yourself consistently sore day in and day out and always struggle with movement after your training days, you're doing too much or you're not eating enough or recovering enough. Anyone can teach you to get as tired as you can and burn yourself out and get as sore as possible. That's not hard to do. but it doesn't mean you had an effective workout. Just like anyone can take a hammer and a few pieces of wood and nail things together, it doesn't mean they built a good house or something useful. So these are the 3 most common ways that people are incorrectly measuring their workouts with. So here are some better alternatives for you to kind of work through. First one is daily step count. So this isn't necessarily tied to training, but if we're looking to lose weight and burn as many calories as possible, how often you're moving outside of the gym is just as important as what you do in the gym, if not more. This also helps with recovery, and most devices actually get this number accurately. So aiming to have 8,000 to 12,000 steps a day is a really great place to start. Next is the intensity of your training. And this is different than the intensity you probably know. Aiming for high intensity training means lifting heavier weights and going closer to failure, not getting your heart rate up really high and exhausting yourself. Cardio intensity is exhausting yourself. Metabolic intensity is challenging your muscles and pushing them to their limits. So high intensity training when it comes to strength training means taking your reps as close to failure as possible and using a high weight that is going to challenge you while maintaining good form. So a really easy example of this would be doing a regular dumbbell bench press. You want to do 3 sets of 8. You want to choose a weight where the 8th rep is pretty difficult for you to do. And if I had asked you to do 9 or 10 reps with a gun to your head, you wouldn't be able to do that. That's the kind of intensity you want to take into every single set. That's the kind of load you want to give yourself with every single set that you're working. If you can do that with a majority of your sets throughout every training day, you are having a good and effective workout. And another good way to measure effective workouts is how you progress week in and week out. The easiest way to measure progression is just by adding weight to your lifts, but that's not the only way. And it's not a good way to rely on things. I've been bench pressing for 10 years. In theory, if I added 5 pounds every week, I should be benching thousands of pounds, but that's not realistic. So you want to look for other ways of progressing your lifts, which includes increasing weight, like we said, adding reps with the same weight, or if you're doing 3 sets of 8 of an exercise with 50 pounds, next week, try doing 3 sets of 9. That is progressive overload. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It just has to be something better than last week. You could do extra sets with the same weight and same reps. So if you did 3 sets of 8 at 50 pounds, you could do 4 sets of 8 at 50 pounds. And the progressions can even be as small as improving your movement pattern, having more control of a movement with the same sets, weight, and reps. So for instance, let's say you did a barbell squat at 100 pounds and it was really hard for you. Your form kind of broke the last 2 reps at 3 sets of 10. The next week you do the same weight, you still do 3 sets of 10, but this time you performed all 10 reps for all 3 sets much better. That is a good positive progression and something to be proud of week in and week out. You can also measure your ability to maintain a mind-muscle connection and intent with every single rep and every single set. And you could even improve in your breathing pattern with every single week as well. Sometimes when you're challenging yourself, you're doing something new, a new exercise, a new weight, a new set range, a new rep range, you can lose track of your breathing toward the end. But improving your execution in any way is going to be positive progress and a good sign that you are improving in your workouts every single week and getting the most out of every training session. So super simple summary here, recapping everything. Bad ways to gauge your workouts are going to be sweating, counting how many calories you burned, and how sore you are after a training day. They're inaccurate, misleading, and don't show the full picture of what you actually did. Instead, look to measure your daily step count, the intensity of your lifts, and how close to failure you're training with every given set and every given workout, and how well you're progressing week to week. Even if it's just as small as having more control with the same weights, any progression is a good sign that you're training effectively and getting the most out of every minute in the gym. Make sure to like this video and share it with a friend if you found it helpful. And if you have any questions, comment them down below. And until next time, stay stupid.